Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about how I photograph my pet red-eye tree frogs. And today I'm going to be photographing one of them on a red parrot tulip, which are widely available with it being spring at the moment. So let's get started on how I go about doing this. Here is a little video just showing my setup. And I'll just pause it there. We'll show you here. I'm showing you a parrot tulip, which is held in sort of like a test tube holder. It's something I bought a long time ago. I think I was shopping in IKEA, and I bought some bamboo, and the bamboo is being kept alive inside this. And it has a rubber cap to it with a hole in it, which stops any of the water spilling out. So it's pretty handy for this sort of photography. Now that's being held in place using a lab stand, which has got a very heavy, sturdy base. So once you fix that in place, it's not going to move. And having a sturdy base for your flower is really important, because if your frog decides to jump, then its legs can maybe sometimes make a lighter vase or something like that fall over, which will just ruin your flower as well. So it's really important to make sure that your flower is secured in something very sturdy. Another good tip I can give you there as well is also just keeping it in place, is using a bit of blue tack, whether it is in a vase or whether it's in something like this. Just secure it in place with a bit of blue tack. And yet another tip also is I use floristry wire. And in the case of the one you can see on the right of the screen here, I've taken a thinner piece of floristry wire and I've wrapped it around in a circular sort of spring-like motion going from the top to the bottom. Or actually, I start at the top and bend the about 2 millimeters of it at a right angle. I stick that into the tulip stem or the head of the flower, and then I slowly wind it around the flower down to the bottom. And then you pop that in the water, secure it with the blue tack. And what this does is it helps you maneuver the flower. It gives you the ability to bend it in whatever direction you want, which can be quite useful at times. So this one's, it's got it on the outside, and this one will have it running up the inside of the stem, stopping just at the top there. Then behind the flower, oh, another point about flowers as well, if using with frogs or any other small animals really, I do tend to wash them. And the reason for this is they're grown with all sorts of pesticides and things. So it's important that I remove all traces of anything that could be harmful to my frogs. They've got a very delicate skin, and I would not want them to absorb anything harmful, any nasty chemicals. So moving on to that, I've got my background here. Now, it's nice to think about the colours as well. And obviously the red-eye tree frogs have got lovely bright red eyes and the green skin, and red and green go wonderful together. So the obvious choices of backgrounds here for me would be either red or green. And another colour that would work really well here would be black, but I'm not as fussed on a black background. So today I've just printed out one of my red backgrounds, which is attached to a piece of cardboard with some double-sided sticky tape, and that vase is just stopping it from falling forward. And an important reason for doing that is that sometimes the frogs will jump about, and if they jump on that, they might cause the card to fall forward, which could injure the frog. So we've got a really sturdy vase with a sturdy handle there that's going to keep this in place, and it's going to keep my frog safe. As you can see here, I am shooting inside a light tent. And this is really important when I'm working with my frogs, particularly in the room that I'm working in. It keeps my frogs safe. It means if they're going to jump about, they've got a nice soft landing and they're not going to jump on anything sort of hard and spiky. And also they're not going to get lost somewhere in my rather large space there. Here you can see I've got a soft box up on the left hand side there. And then I've got a beauty dish on the right hand side. At the back on the right here is also a speed light which has got a grid on it as well, and that's sort of pointed in diagonally from the back with the grid on to stop the light going all over the place. I only want it hitting the back side of this flower and the frog sitting on top of it. Now, another thing is that it's really important for me to set all of this up before I even think of getting the frog out. I need to be checking my lighting before I've got the frog out, so everything is ready. The less amount of time that the frog has out of its own environment, the better. The less chance that it's going to get stressed at all. The last thing I want is for one of my frogs to be stressed. So I can take my time getting a nice composition, getting the lighting just as I want it before even getting the frog out. So here I am doing a quick light test, and I just start off with the light that's coming in from the back, a nice little bit of backlighting on the frog and on the flower there. And it's just that gridded speed light from behind. So that's my first light. Then we'll add in a second one, which was that soft box that I showed you on the left hand side, and that's illuminated lovely. You can really see the textures on the petals everywhere. The background's nicely lit up, and from the other one on the right hand side you can see that's just given that extra bit of dimension to the flower really. And with me having not having a light just coming from the front, you can see it's lit on both sides down the stem there, yet there's a slight amount of shadow. I just feel like the lighting on both sides, it gives it a really nice dimension. And then I add in a third light there, and there was just a little bit of shadow there, less light than I would have liked to have been. And if my frog faces the right hand side, which is the way I'm hoping that it really will, then I want it to catch the light, sort of the backlight coming over this direction. I want it to be lit up from behind and in the top a little bit from that soft box, but I don't want it to have shadow all on the front of its face, so that beauty dish is going to help to bounce in just a small amount of light there. So that's my lighting setup for today. Now, another reason for adding in the light tent is not just for the safety of the frog. It is also to add in an extra layer of diffusion, because frogs have wet skin, obviously, and you're going to get specular highlights very, very easily. So just positioning the light slightly away from that light tent, a little bit of space between them, that's all going to help to reduce the amount of specular highlights on the frog. So let's bring the frog in. Now I've checked my room to make sure my room's warm enough for it and everything, so it's going to be safe in the environment. It's going to be comfortable in the environment. And here he is. This is my little male red-eyed tree frog. And I'm just going to help him to find his way up to the top of that tulip there. And I try to let them just do their own thing, really. I give them time, give them space, and I always have another prop on inside the tent. There's somewhere else for it to jump if it's uncomfortable. I'll usually have a flower on either side. At least sometimes I can have about 10 in there. So as you can see, it's not moving very fast at the moment. We'll give it a moment or so. These red-eye tree frogs, they sleep through the day, so it has been woken up this afternoon for this. Now, I can see it, you can't from the angle that the camera's at, but I'm just taking a rather sleepy photo of it, which I'll pop in here. I'm just waiting for it to get comfortable there and see if it'll move. Sometimes I'll give them a very gentle nudge. It just prompts them to move a little bit. Yeah, I've just woken this one up and partially destroyed my tulip. But now you can see his beautiful face. So today I'm using my Sony A7 III camera and I'm using the 90mm macro lens, which is perfect for this sort of thing. My settings are 1/200th shutter speed. The ISO was 125 and the f-stop was f18 or f16. I can't remember just now. I usually shoot at f16 to 18 to get as much of the frog in focus as possible. And here you can see he's just doing his own thing. They often jump off onto the backdrop, so my backdrops end up a little bit mucky at times, but it doesn't matter. Well, there he goes, he's jumped off. Let's clear those tulips away. And I'm removing that tulip because it's partially fallen to pieces and bringing in this next one that I've got here. And I've got plenty of water inside that vase just to weight it so the frog won't make it fall down if it jumps. And there he is, he's crawled right where I want him to go. So he's looking the direction I want for the lighting setup. And then he's back off to sleep. Sometimes we just go back off to sleep really quickly. Other times they can stay awake half an hour or so. I do quite like to get in close and get a photograph of the eyes when they're partially closed because they've got the wonderful patterns on their eyes. I will show you a photograph of this. I usually have my camera set up on a tripod, but with the frogs moving about, you need to be flexible and be able to move around as well. And here he's in the perfect position. Not for long, but I can tell at this point he's had enough. His skin has changed colour ever so slightly. He's gone a little bit dark and he's just jumping off. So he's had enough. He's ready to just go back to sleep. So we'll put him away back in his home and I'll take you to the next part of the video, which is going to be the editing part. So I've brought the main photo that I like into Camera Raw. I can see it looks slightly overexposed on these red areas here, and just some light areas there where I think I had that light on the back slightly close to the light tent, so there's a little bit of a hot spot on both of the eyes. So I'm reducing those highlights overall for this redness, and also on the petal here, and here it was slightly bright as well. Now this time I'm also making a mask, and I've made a mask for the background. And what I'm doing is I'm reducing the highlights right down in the background there, because I really want your image, I want your focus to be on the frog. So if we darken the background down slightly and reduce those highlights, that'll help. Here you can see I've looked at some of the specular highlights, and most of the areas here just around his eyes, on his feet there. And you can see I've used a mask, and what I've done is I've just reduced the highlights in these areas a little bit. And I've a little overdone it slightly there. Didn't want to go over into the background. So just some targeted adjustments really. Reduced the whites and reduced the highlights. And you can see there, it was right there, it was going really where it goes red. That's indicating that those bits are too bright. And those will be my main adjustments in here. I also want to create just ever so slight vignetting, but I don't want to make the blacks in the corner here too dark. So I'm only going to take it down around about 5. And I'm just checking my blacks here by holding my pointer over and looking up in the corner here. It'll give you numbers in the histogram. And I'm hoping that the blacks don't really go below 5 or so. You can see they're going to 2 and 3 in places. So I'm adjusting the blacks overall. And the reason for doing this is that if you print your images, you don't want anything under 5. Otherwise, you're going to get some really awful results in the black areas of the print. So I've adjusted that. And now I'm going to create a little bit more vignetting. Just at the top is a little bit brighter. And I want your eye solely to be on the centre part of, well, more or less centre, where the frog's situated and the tulip's situated. I don't want my eye to be drawn up out of the image where those bright areas are. So I'm bringing the highlights right down using this linear gradient down here, and it's just like a gradual introduction of the darker bit. And that's made a little bit of difference there. And I think I'll just go and open that into Photoshop now. And you can see it's overall, it's quite a nice image just to start with, really, but it does need some minor adjustments. And those are mainly with the specular highlights, really, but also there's a little bit of debris on the frog. And that's normal because he has eco earth. It's like a cocoa fibre in his environment just to keep it nice and moist and humid. When he comes out of the tank, he's got little bits of this on him, and rather than bother him by taking it all off him, I'll just remove it all in Photoshop by cloning it all out there. And this just takes a few minutes of going around the image. And then once I've got all these bits of debris off the frog, I'll also check the tulip over, and sometimes there can be a little bit of damage on the petals or whatever, so I'll be checking for that as well. So I'll just jump ahead. I'll speed this up a little bit here. So I've jumped ahead a little bit now that most of the debris is cleaned up and the little spots on the tulip. Now looking at the eyes, you can see it's a little bit hot around here, a little bit too white. So I'll address that now. And I'm just going to remove this bit and fill that with content away and see what happens. And that makes it just a little bit less distracting. I could have done a better job with the lighting on that side from the back. And I will take some more photos and maybe do another photo shoot, and I'll show you where the lighting can be better coming in from the back and on the sides. And I'm just double checking all these highlights now. I'm removing some of them, but I don't want to remove all of them. I don't want to remove all traces of the fact that the frog's got some wet or damp skin. I want it to look fairly natural. But I don't want the eyes to be drawn to these bright white areas. I want the eyes to be drawn to the face of the frog more than anywhere else. Yes, I want somebody to look at the whole frog and the whole tulip, but I don't want them looking at the places on the toes and the legs thinking, what's those white bits? So, and if in entering in a competition, I don't want the judge saying, oh, she's blown the highlights there. Make some judges laugh. So some of these bits I will remove quickly. Nobody will know any difference. Nobody would know. But I'm going to leave in or cover up some parts, I think, here. Going over lightly with the clone tool first. Now, I don't really like that. I think I've gone over it too much with the clone tool. I'll get rid of this big white area here. That is a bit distracting. Just filling with content away again. And just making sure it's done properly. It's just the very edges of the feet, so just blend it in nicely. Just checking, seeing how everything's looking. And I might be getting a little bit overzealous here and removing a little bit too much. That doesn't look good. That doesn't look natural. So I'm undoing that. So another option I can use here is it's still a bit bright. I'm just checking how it looks overall. What I'm going to do, instead of removing these areas, I'm just going to copy an area right next to it, feather it, and then I'm going to copy and paste it, and then move it over these areas. So you can see there's a little bit of highlight still coming through. Take a black brush, make it small enough. And I'm going to just get rid of some of that so it's falling. So I'm not going to cover up the edge of that toe as such. And then I'm going to go down here, I'm going to do the same. Just going to copy an area next to where the highlights are. And I'm going to paste it over the highlights. And this can work really well. And you can reduce the opacity of it so you're not losing all of the highlights, but you don't have the bright white, and you've got the natural orange colour still coming through there. And again, using a mask with a black brush, just so I can keep the definition of the edge of the toe. And another bit for this lower area. So this can be used with so many things. I mean, sometimes you get a lot of flowers who have shiny areas, and it's quite handy to help cover those up. Even if you reduce the opacity down to even 10% or so, it can just reduce those harsh white glaring areas. That looks a lot better to me. My eyes aren't drawing down to those white bits that were there. So next we need to address these areas of the floristry wire that were holding the tulip in place as such. And it's usually quite an easy fix. Just drawing around it, using the patch tool is quite easy for this. And filling in with content aware. It's done a fairly good job. But there's a little bit of a line there. And so I'll use the patch tool, see how that looks. And that's not too bad. It's not perfect, but we can remedy that. Just using the clone tool a little bit. Then we'll go and remove the next one. And I like that the stalk is out of focus, to be honest with you, because the green is quite bright and vibrant, and that can draw your attention from the frog a little bit. So just using the patch tool again here. And I'm going to do something similar to what I did on the foot of the frog. I'm just going to copy a very feathered area of the stalk, and I'm going to paste it in. Just feathering it a little bit more to make it less obvious. So I'm going to feather it even more. Right, so copy that, paste it in, and move it to where we want it. And I'm just using it, rotating it a little bit, using it to cover over the area that I've just covered over before. I just want it to blend a little bit more. So the patch tool worked fairly well, but this is helping it to blend better for me. And I'm going to do that with the area further down the stem as well. Just choosing an area closer to it. It's feathered by 20 pixels there. And actually I'm going to feather it a little bit more. Copy that, paste it in, and move it down over the area that we used the patch tool on. And that's worked really quite well, hasn't it? Just checking the edge there. Let's see that that's blended okay. I'm not happy with it just here, so what I'm doing is just copying an area from there, and I'm going to paste it further down. I can be a bit picky with these things, and I'll keep going until I'll get it just how I want it. And there's a small area there that needs a slight adjustment as well. So continuing on with my copying and pasting to cover these areas up where there's any slight hint that there's been some editing. There you go. To me, it doesn't look like it's had anything done. So, if you didn't know that floristry wire had been there, you might never guess. Now, there's a little bit at the top, just this area here, and that should be the last bit. And this should be fairly easy to remedy as well. So again, I've got it feathered, feathering it by 15 pixels as I choose my area. We'll copy and paste that in and move it over to cover that up. And that's just a bit of the stem and the background moved down. Now I need to mask this off over the flower petals. So choose a brush with a little bit of hardness and remove 100% over that. And there you go. I don't think you can tell. Maybe I need to blend it ever so slightly along the edge there, so it's not a harsh edge. And there you go, that's pretty much that done, that frog edited. So thank you for joining me for this video, and I do hope you enjoyed it and enjoyed meeting one of my little red-eyed tree frogs. If you did enjoy it, it would be great to hear, and just do let me know in the comments, and I can always make some more frog videos or some more editing videos. So thanks for joining. Bye for now.